Back and he goes, "Okay, Beson, we want to hire you, but we've heard you're the most expensive guy in town." He said, "Our budget is $1 million for this place. Can you do the job?" And I said, "Well, Mr. Cap, I can make this place look like $1 million for $1 million."
Today on the Curious Builder podcast, we had a returning guest. We had Billy Beson, and his episode 120 is kind of the dive into his story. And Billy's really an icon in the Midwest, in Minnesota. You're going to laugh a lot, and you're going to hear some great stories of kind of the old times from the 80s and 90s. And buckle up. This one's going to be a good one. It's going to warm your heart and make you laugh. Without further ado, here's Billy Beson. Welcome to the Curious Builder podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today, we've got a returning guest, guest number 120. If you want to go back and see the origin story, you got Mr. Billy Beson. What's up, Billy?
And that's not my age.
That's not your age.
No.
Yes, he's not 120. I mean, he looks great for 120. For those that haven't tuned in, go back to 120. You'll get the whole story. Billy is an icon in Minnesota, and really in the Midwest. When did you start your career? Was it the
1982? I started my own business.
1982, and
Yeah.
so really, you've had a lot of super elite people where it's almost like privacy, right? I would imagine is probably the currency, or not necessarily.
You know what? That's the main thing I was thinking about driving out here, because I drove by a lot of houses that I told you that. And just the fact that my Uncle Bob, who is my mentor, my mom's brother, Robert Lennox, was the society interior designer in town. And through him, like, I met the Ford Bells, I met Kitty and John Pillsbury, I met Jenny and Jim Binger. I mean, you're talking McKnight.
Those are all names. It's funny that,
yeah.
I mean, so I grew up in Chaska. They had McKnight Road.
Yeah.
And so there's and of course the Pillsburys are famous. Most people outside Minnesota will know the Pillsbury Doughboy, the commercials forever.
Yeah.
And, there's some iconic names. And
Sally Irvin gave $23 million to build the Ordway. She was an Ordway.
Yeah.
He had just absolutely the top level of the cream of the crop. And it was so fun to watch him interact, because we were talking about this before, about just being honest and being yourself. And he was the same we'd go in the back door at the Ford Bell house, and they'd have three people standing there in white uniforms with white shoes on and white nylons. And they weren't nurses. They were just there and my Uncle Bob would get a bucket of carnations, and we'd drive down Ferndale Road, and he'd grab a handful of flowers and bring them in, not to Mrs. Bell, but to the help in the kitchen. And he'd walk in, and they'd all go, "Uncle Bob," because they had heard me call him Uncle Bob a million times. And it's just so cool, because he'd have like dinner parties and stuff at his studio, and we'd take every 3,000 feet, take every stick of furniture out of there, and he would bring in 2 concert grand pianos on a Sunday afternoon and serve brunch. Irwin Dick Town and Country Caterers were like the biggest caterer in the world. They were there everything he ever had. And it was so funny, because he'd seat Eleanor Bell next to the parking lot attendant at Schlamps. I mean, it was that kind of thing. It was like a little bit of everything, and that's what made magic. It was getting everybody's different personality in one room and bringing them all together.
It's funny. I don't know if anyone has a superpower. You still have to work hard at it. But lately I've sort of realized that something that my mom does really well, and if I was to describe myself, both my mom and dad very well, but
God, yeah.
I'm a very even split between my mom and dad's personalities, and and honestly, the greatest gift anyone could have is to be the best versions of both their mom and dad. And
You know what?
And I feel like I am.
I feel like I am too.
Are you?
Yep, I really do. And your parents, well, your mom, I just absolutely adore. And that day she walked in here, she just lights up the room.
She does.
And your dad has always been just curious about me. And your mom is obviously talks more than your dad does. Mm-hmm. But when your dad says something, it really means something. Do you know what I mean?
He's very curious about, so as an attribute, we won't make this whole story about my
Your family.
parents. I mean, it's fine. I've had Dad on the podcast before a couple Christmases ago, and that was really fun. I'll send it to you because you will love it. And just Dad talking shop. But where I was going with this is kind of like your Uncle Bob was, my mom's a connector. She loves to connect people.
Me too.
And that's honestly something that I really seek to do. I mean, it's what's led to the podcast. It's what led to the collectives, all these things I do. I just love bringing amazing people together. And honestly, I often feel like I don't have a lot of talents. I mean, I know I'm talented in many ways, but I think my real talent is actually just trusting people. I surround myself with really amazing people, which is, that's not rocket science. It's just like,
No.
everyone around me is better at their job than me. Therefore,
Exactly.
I do pretty well because I have a lot of really talented people around me.
I mean, I bet I had hundreds of employees over there. I know we had 15 receptionists. We had a receptionist that every time the phone rings, she'd go, and I go, it's your job.
She was like like she was a hassle to answer
no,
the phone.
phone again, you know.
Yeah, that's so
Or
funny.
another one, we had this, I went to Bemis Bag Corporation, moved out of their offices in the IDS building, and somehow I found out they were selling desks. So they were selling walnut desks for $800. And I walked in and they had a half round walnut receptionist desk. I bought that for the same price, $800.
Wow.
Aaron found the paperwork. Aaron Carlson built it for $30,000.
No way.
Yes, I bought it for $800.
That was supposed to, so it prompted today, and today for the audience is going to be less about business. I just wanted story time. This whole episode is just going to be stories. I asked Billy to bring some stories. It looks like you've got 40 stories, just notations written down here, because of what prompted this. Do you remember about 2-3 weeks ago, I called you. I was running around the lakes and I could not remember this story. And so I called you to verify. And it was, honestly, I've told this story so many times. So maybe for those that didn't listen to episode 120, you know the story I'm talking about
Yes.
the $1 million design. Let's start with that.
Okay.
But before we do, because you just mentioned it, so Drew, your nephew, and my very good friend, we were here 2 nights ago. So we're recording at Misa House, and rather than my normal studio. And Drew and I were just chatting, and he just mentioned how sometimes the clientele, like this home, hopefully is taking us to a new level of clientele.
Yeah.
And part of it is that's who your whole career was with, kind of that higher upper echelon of people in terms of money. And like, I've learned quickly that you just say yes to whatever the request is. There's not really a judgment. I mean, I obviously need to give them my thoughtful feedback on architecture and building and things that they're asking me to. But, sometimes people ask you to do some pretty crazy things. But that's just part of how it goes, and they're really just trusting you. And so many of us are governed by the rules of money. But when you have an insanely amount of money, your mind doesn't think the same. And anyway, Drew was just saying that you've had it situations where who knows the amount of money on patio furniture, pillows, and they'll come in and it's all custom ordered. And like, no, we don't actually like those. Reorder all of them over again, and now you've got a whole deck. You have a bunch of leftover stuff. Like, okay.
I sold furniture to a client, Denison Lean wrought iron furniture with Pierre Frey fabric, outdoor fabric on it from France. And I sold it to them for $68,000. And I said they were moving and they weren't going to use it. And I said, could I buy that from you? And the client said, yeah, how about a $4,000 credit? I built my whole backyard around this big stone table and all this beautiful wrought iron furniture. And everybody goes, I've never seen outdoor furniture like this. And I go, it's like, not like I would spend the money on it. But my clients have always been so kind to me and so nice. And, I think the thing that I had that maybe a lot of interior designers don't have is I had fun. I had fun doing my job. And I treated everybody exactly the same, because my mom taught me that and my Uncle Bob reinforced that.
That's, I meant to say this. You mentioned that my dad was curious, and I think you're right. I think that's ultimately the curious builder.
Yeah.
And that's where I got it from. And my mom is too, but my dad is very. And the thing about my dad is he doesn't care if you're a billionaire or a $1 heir.
Oh, me too.
He could care less. He just cares that you're real and authentic. He'll talk to anybody. And what your Uncle Bob was showcasing you as a young kid.
Yeah.
And even how he paired those meals of, the socialites next to the busboy.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some fascinating conversations.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about, obviously, any business is all about the people.
Mm-hmm.
But, I grew up in it's so funny because now that I'm actually 72 years old, I think I have total recall for things I want to remember. Like I remember things that everybody goes, how do you possibly remember that? And I do. And I remember every detail, and it's because I wanted to remember it. Don't ask me anything about chemistry, though.
I didn't want to remember that.
No.
Me neither. So let's start the episode of stories. That's my favorite story. So I want to hear you say it again.
Okay, well, this is a long story. Let me preface it by we went on my parents were divorced when I was 7. Mm-hmm. And my mom and my 2 brothers and I went on one vacation. And that was to go to the Cap Towers downtown, which is across from the Hyatt. It's been a million different hotels. But a guy named Marty Cap owned the company, and one of my clients was his controller of his his whole financial end of his business. And they said, we want you to interview for this job to redo the main level of the hotel. And I said, well, that's great. This is way before CAD. It's before Photoshop. There weren't laptops even, so no computers, no nothing. So we did all these hand-drawn perspectives of like this grand ballroom, and I framed $35 Picasso prints in expensive frames and had a Picasso gallery. I did the whole restaurant around a George Seurat painting, that Sunday in the Park with George, and I named it George's. We did a 40-foot mural all done in pointillism of the poster of the piece of art. And we had an intern spray mount all the drawings that I had done the night before.
How long did it take to create all this?
Oh, a drawing would usually take 20 hours maybe. Okay. And I did them with a 000 pen and watercolor. So, they were gorgeous. And I came in early the next morning to get ready for the meeting, and the intern had used the wrong kind of spray mount, and they were all rippled. They were totally ruined. You couldn't even really see them or read them or anything. And I was just like, I called up Leonard Horowitz, my client, and said, Leonard, we're not going to interview. He goes, what do you mean you're not going to interview? And I told him the story. And he said, well, if nothing happens, we'll be done by noon. We'll call you and we'll let you know what happened. And I was like, yeah, like they're going to call. 1 minute after noon, the phone rings. I pick it up. Hello? Oh, Leonard, how are you? Can you come down right now? Bring what you got. I had nothing. I had a poster of the painting that I got from the Chicago Museum. And so I put my poster under my arm. I walk into this huge conference room. The biggest hotel firm in the U.S. was there from Dallas. Renderings all around the room. Programs that are this thick, of what it entails and why, and the specs and the bid and all. I go in there with a poster. And they talk to me for like 5 minutes, and Marty Cap says, well, Beson, just a minute. He asked the guy who flew in from Hawaii, who was owned the management company that managed the hotel. And they come back a few minutes later, and he goes, well, first of all, Marty Cap has got shoe polish brown hair, red tinted glasses, a burgundy polyester jacket, a burgundy polyester tank kind of thing underneath it with a big surfer cross. And within 3 minutes of talking to him, he was doodling. And you talk about just saying yes to everybody. I went over, I said, oh, this is interesting. What is that you're drawing there, Mr. Cap? And I said, can you just pay attention for about 5 more minutes? They left the room, they came back, and he goes, okay, Beson, we want to hire you, but we've heard you're the most expensive guy in town. He said, our budget is $1 million for this place. Can you do the job? And I said, well, Mr. Cap, I can make this place look like $1 million for $1 million.
This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top-tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all of their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. Also, for more information, you can listen to episode 1, where I interview their founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk about the innovation at Pella. Social, or is it social IQ? I think it's EQ, that's what they call it. But,
emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Emotional quotient.
Yeah, it's a lot different than, obviously IQ, and we need both in the world. Not one is better than the other, but certain people have different amounts of it.
Yeah.
And I do think in this business, I think EQ is more valuable than IQ.
Oh, I do too, totally.
Mainly because this business is so much relationship based, and reading the body language and understanding when people are, I try to push people sometimes a little bit, within a degree or two of their comfort zone.
Oh.
And what I meant by yes before, because I don't agree. I hate that saying where people, like clients are right. I 100% disagree with that statement.
Yeah.
What I meant is that when a client says, hey, I'd love to add a second story, that might be $500,000. Like my point is like, yes, I'll get right back to you. Like I would never, my point is as I've gravitated towards higher end clients, I wouldn't let their request be like, I wouldn't like, oh, that's going to cost a lot of money. That would never be the first thing I would say. But early on in my career, I probably would have said, because to them, it's not about the money. It's about what they want.
Yeah, what they're going to end up
so
with.
that's what I meant by that. Yes, because I 100% want to make clear to the people listening that I think a lot of times clients need to be told no. And I tell my clients in my first interview, don't surround yourself with a bunch of yes people, because you can really go down some wrong avenues in budget and design and all kinds of different things. You want people that would just be honest.
Exactly.
Well, I just love hearing you tell that story.
My God, I'm in the conference room right now.
Just look.
And the restaurant, the mural, a woman named Trisha Farrell did it. Mm-hmm. And it was all pointillism, just 30 feet by 9 feet high.
How long did it take to do the project?
6 months, maybe.
Okay.
I think she had 2 people help her.
Did in your career, because I assume this was not the first time this has happened, or it didn't happen in the future, how often would these big firms, were they ever like, Billy, how did you get the job from us? Or did you ever wonder what the other firms would say? Because, you're kind of like MacGyver with a Swiss Army knife. And this is like, this is like an M-run Abrams tank. And like, how did the Swiss Army knife beat us?
Yeah, well.
Or did you never really ever have those kinds of conversations back then?
I think I was so naive when I first started my business. And that's really when I developed my clientele. I had no idea that I might fail. And considering the environment that I grew up in, I was taught the most important things: be kind, be generous to people that have less than you, empower people. I learned an incredible amount of stuff about mentoring from my Uncle Bob. Here's the story about Uncle Bob. As we were going to see Eleanor Bell, and my desk was right next to his, and then he had 2 other assistants in his same office. And he picked up the phone. He said, Eleanor, it's Bob Lennox calling. I'm wondering if my little nephew Billy and I can stop by and have our chicken salad sandwiches from Minnetonka by your pool. And, oh, sure, Bob. I won't be home, but yeah, just help yourself. And, the pool was built in 1910. It was the first pool ever built in Minnesota. And it was surrounded by Corinthian columns that were marble and marble floor, and these inlaid Italian-esque scenes of marble. And so I am sitting there at noon in a pair of my Uncle Bob's shorts, and I was 6'2", and when I graduated from high school, I weighed $145, and I was 6'2". So I didn't have a butt till I was 30. So here I am in the size 34 pants with a, cinched. I think I had a safety pin to hold them on. And Ford Bell dives in the pool and he goes, Lennox, if you're here to sell my wife anything, get the hell out of here. And so Ford goes in the house and we're laying there in the sun. My Uncle Bob loved to catch like a half an hour of sun at the noon hour. And I said, God, Uncle Bob, look at this place. This is just incredible. I said, wouldn't it be incredible to live like this? And he goes, what do you mean, Billy? We are. Here I was sitting there living it. And I'm thinking about, wouldn't it be nice? And it's like, it's better. You don't have to pay for anything. You're a guest, but things like that were just mind-blowing for my uncle. He was such an entertainer. He would have these musicals, in his house on Sundays, and everybody that could sing or play an instrument would show up. A guy named Ralph Thornton, who used to be a writer for the Star and Tribune, my Uncle Bob, and he would play four-handed piano. And as time went on, he decided, I'm not paying for town and country caterers every weekend. It was $2,800 for everybody. And so he said, I think I'll just make my old Depression dish. And I was like, what the hell is the old? Well, it turned out to be eggplant casserole. And I'll just tell you that I was sitting between two of his best friends trying to eat the old Depression dish. And one says to the other, oh my God, this tastes like, and his friend says, I know, but what has he done to it? I was like, this tastes like, yeah, I know, but what has he done to it? It's like,
oh, that's so funny.
But
how long did he go with the eggplant casserole? Either he
way too long.
I'm surprised people kept showing up.
Oh yeah. Well, it was for the entertainment.
All right.
I mean, there were people like Badge Hendrickson, who owned H&B Gallery on Hennepin Avenue, an antique store, and Mary Ann Clifford, who's Georgie Clifford's dad, owned Cremettes. And everybody owned something, in those days. It was amazing. And I walked in, I said, hi, Badge. Hi, Mrs. Clifford. Mrs. Clifford had a big cigarette like this. She goes, now, why is she Badge? And I'm Mrs. Clifford. I was like, well... And it's so funny because her daughter, Toodles was her name, Waspy, was the maitre d' at Lucia's restaurant in Uptown, which was my favorite restaurant. Everybody used to call it Lucia's. And I go, no, it's Lucia Watson, because her dad, Tom Watson, and Annie Watson were my Uncle Bob's best friends and best friends with my mom. And they called my Uncle Bob the late Bob Lennox before he died, because he was always late.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Unbelievable. Just, but it's got to start with my mom. And that vacation that we went downtown, we each had a Friday night shirt and a Saturday night shirt. Oxford cloth, surfer shirts they were called. It's like a Henley kind of with piping. And we all wore matching, of course. So we went out Friday.
How big was your family? I know Dave. Who else?
Dave, and then my younger brother, John.
Okay. I've never met John.
Well, John passed away. He's died of an overdose.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old?
About 45, I think.
Okay.
It's kind of a blank period of time. We never got along. And I did everything I could possibly do for him.
Were you what was your birth order?
I was middle.
You were middle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My mother used to call me Middle Willie.
Yeah, the nicknames, man.
And she used to have these poems she would say to me, Little Willie in the best of sashes fell in the fire and was burnt to ashes. Soon the room grew chilly, but nobody wanted to stir up Willie. And I'd make her recite them to me. And I said, what's the other one, Mom? She goes, Little Willie in his childish air licked the mercury from the mirror. At the funeral, Mrs. Jones said to Mrs. Brown, 'twas a chilly day for Willie when the mercury went down.
Wow. What was your mom's name?
Nancy.
Nancy. She sounds like an amazing lady.
And after about 6th grade, she said, for Christ's sake, if you call me mother more time, I'm going to blow my head off. Call me Nancy.
That's what she told you?
Yes, all of us.
You never called her mom?
Never. Not after 7th grade.
She wanted to be called Nancy?
Nancy. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to blow my head off. It's like, yes.
What was, any idea why?
There's no, there is no explanation.
That's amazing.
Just put that under the unknown category.
That's amazing.
So anyway, we go out Saturday night. My mother teaches us all how to do the Lindy on a bridge that goes over the pool.
I don't know what the Lindy is. Is it a dance, I assume?
It's a dance.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a dance you can dance. It's a swing touch dance. And the waitress we had Friday night just fell in love with us. And another woman fell in love with my mother and her husband. And she said, you guys are going to move to Owatonna. I'll get you a job in the bank, doll. And we all went, we're not flipping moving to Owatonna for Christ's sake. So anyway, my little brother and I always fought. And he punched me, so I punched him back in the nose, and he got a bloody nose all over his Saturday night shirt. So my mother is in the bathroom in her underwear and bra with her hair ratted full out, before she backcombed it, as she called it. And my brother goes in and she goes, "Oh, for Christ's sake, Willie, come here. How did that happen?" And I don't know. She goes, "Well, John, go get your shirt from last night." And he brings her this ball of Oxford cloth that there's no way you could ever make it look like a shirt again, So she goes, "Oh, what am I going to do?" She goes, "I've got an idea." She goes in her purse, gets out a safety pin, and takes a hand towel from the bathroom and wraps it around my brother's arm and around his neck and pins it behind his neck to hide the blob of blood. So we go out to dinner that same night, the next night, and we have the same waitress. She goes, "Oh, honey, what happened to you?" And my little brother looks at her and he goes, "That's a long story."
How old at
People
that
don't
time?
believe me. I was 12, he was 10.
Yeah, I can totally believe it.
Yeah. Oh, what she used to, we lived across the street from where you had to be to take the bus. So we had to walk, everybody said, "Oh, I walk to school." Well, we really did. But when it was like 20 below, like it was in the olden days, as they say, we had a Volkswagen that was our family car that the day my mom bought it, I shut the door and a big ball of body putty fell out of the door. And the heat only worked in the summer.
Okay, that's funny.
So she would give us a ride to school, and she sold furs and high fashion at a place called Schlamps on Lagoon and Girard, or Lagoon and Lake Street, Hennepin. And where was I? Okay, so my mom had cold cream on her face, hair wrapped in toilet paper with some kind of bonnet thing over it, smoking a Lark 100, scraping the windshield and shifting at the same time.
Oh my.
And we were like, for example, all my friends in high school got brand new cars for their 16th birthday. So that's my perspective of viewing this thing. And we got out of there, and we would say like 3 blocks before we got to the door, because it was this big horseshoe driveway there were 3,300 students at Edina High School when I went there.
Even back then?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It was the biggest year. Then it split into 2 high schools.
Oh, I see.
But my mom would buzz right through the horseshoe driveway, and if any bus pulled out, the horn was like, very intimidating. And she, we get out of the car, and it's like, Jesus Christ, did anybody see us get out of that car? And I think Bob Holt, I don't care that I told him that story. He goes, "Yeah, it was pretty much the same for me. My mom always, had a fur coat on and the best clothes and lots of jewelry and had her hair done and made up. And I was so embarrassed, I made her stop before we got to school if she gave us a ride to school. And I was like, let's see, fur coats, jewelry, Mercedes. Bob, that's not really exactly like the experience that I had. But it is.
But it is. I think as a child, you just want to fit in.
Yeah.
You just don't want to be an outlier. You just want to kind of blend, and you're still figuring yourself out. I remember, it's funny that you say this, because I think this is why I think it's a kid thing. I mean, mom and dad did well, not extremely well, not like the Polads, but not terrible either. And of course, if people that own their own business, they know it's really hard. Oh. It doesn't mean that can't be very rewarding, and it's not a great lifestyle. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
But people who don't own their own business often will say, "Oh, your family owns their own. It must be easy street." They just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so, but I remember we had it wasn't like it was a great car. We had a Ford Explorer, but this is like in the late 80s, early 90s, and that was a nice car.
Sure.
And I used to tell my mom, it's like, "Could you please drop me off a block before the school?" And I would walk to school because I didn't want to show up in a new car.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, so I can totally relate, but to both sides of your story. And then my dad always, he had a lot of cars. He just always was buying a new car, but he had a BMW.
Yeah.
But when he would pick up, because again, remember, he does not care about money at all. He bought it because he liked the way it drove. He could care less. It was a BMW.
I got one in the driveway
right
here.
And he would honk. that really, so but he would pick me up. Mom would drop me off. Dad would pick us up sometimes, and he'd roll down the window, and he knew I was embarrassed. And to this day, I still, and he would honk, and he'd roll down his window. It's like, that's my boy. And of course, you feel like you want to be just 1 inch tall because you're like, come on, Dad. You got a BMW. No one else has a BMW.
So funny,
So that was,
that's my boy.
That's my boy. And I knew he was proud of his son, and I didn't have an issue with that. It was just drawing attention when I just wanted to blend in.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It leaves an impact as a kid. And it's probably something now I'll be able to relate to probably a little bit better with my kids. And I don't fault Dad at all for it. He was just, it's his personality. But I think it just shows you, like, as kids are growing up, like, they just want to blend in.
Yeah, they just want to be like everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. My mom, this is an honest-to-God true story. I grew up in the house that Drew lives in now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 8 blocks as the crow flies from where I live now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had cowboy and Indian wallpaper in my bedroom until I was 16 and rode my bike up to Valley View Hardware and bought a gallon of baby blue paint and took the wallpaper off. And, it was like, and people say to me, well, I'll have you over but we have to paint the dining room. It's like, or we'll have you over when this happens. It's like, do you think I care what color your dining room is? Do you know what I mean? But my mom, we had a hamster named Tallulah. And Tallulah had gotten out of her cage somehow. And our Chesapeake Bay retriever, Sam, had pawed the hamster in the hallway. And my mom, for some reason, got up in the middle of the night, and there was light coming in the living room window, and Tallulah was on her back, wiggling her little hands in the air. And I had bought my own extension phone with my money from my paper route, from Dave's paper route, actually, that I do collecting and did the Sunday thing with him and for him. And where was I?
Just a hamster.
Oh, yeah, Tallulah. And so my mom goes, well, I'm going to call the police. And I go, what? You can't call the police, mother? So I went in and I picked up the phone in my bedroom. And the other phone was in the kitchen. And my mother's saying, hello, this is Nancy Lennox at 59th and Oak Lawn. And I'm just wondering if you might have a patrol car in the neighborhood. Our Chesapeake Sam seems to have mauled Tallulah, our hamster. And I pick up the phone as the cop is going, now look, lady, get some toilet paper, put it on top of Tallulah, and toss her.
That reminds me. So you met Uncle Stevie, my dad's brother. He had Down syndrome.
I don't know.
Uncle Stevie was just a shooting star in our family.
Yeah.
Just an amazing. He lived till he was 54. He outlived 3 cardiologists.
Oh my
and
gosh.
He had 3 holes in his heart, and they didn't think he would live past 11. And
Isn't that
he lived till he
amazing?
was 54. And so the joke was you didn't want to be his cardiologist. That was a death sentence.
Yes.
But anyway, I have a hamster story. So Stevie, he's probably in this story, I don't know, 13, 15 years old, something like that. And he's got big cowboy boots on. Long story short, they had a family hamster and it got out of the cage and they couldn't catch it. And all of a sudden Stevie gets up and he's just walking. It had been gone for like a week. They didn't know where it was. And all of a sudden one day Stevie goes, bam, slams on with his cowboy boots and squishes the hamster in the house and goes, I got him. And he lifts up his booty. He had killed the hamster. Anyway, I don't
probably in heaven with Tallulah.
I don't think so. Yeah. And the cop they didn't get called in that one. So I didn't realize I had a hamster story in there. So thanks for bringing that one
Yeah,
up.
well, that's why we talk about hamsters. We're talking about clients around here.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client that I'd worked with forever, but he kind of pushed the limit. And I told him I was done with him. And I thought, this is the biggest mistake I've ever made in my entire life. The next week, the phone rang, and Mrs. Cargill McMillan called me to do their new top floor of Harrington House in downtown Wayzata. And 2 days later, without each other knowing, Mrs. Whitney McMillan called me to do a new house with Meyer, Shear, and Rockcastle. People call it MSR, but I knew Meyer, Shear, and Rockcastle. And a lot of people, I bet there's people at the firm that don't know who the MSR is. I hate the way people use initials for everything. You know, it's like you got to unscramble the alphabet to know what the hell they're talking about. But she was, so I won't tell you which one. One looked like Grace Kelly. Second wife, absolutely beautiful woman, just elegant in every way. And she was really the only person that ever intimidated me.
Really?
Yep. And one of the things she did is like she would say, well, I'm sure you know who Michelle Dahmer is. And I was like, no. And then she'd say, well, I was at a party and I met Andy Warhol last week. And have you met him? It's like, no. And every time I showed her something, I would say, for some reason, the word cute came out of my mouth. I said, that'd be cute. And I've never used the word cute in my entire life. Maybe about a baby, but not about a house. And she said, you know, don't use that word. I hate that word. And do you know how many times I said cute in the next 2 or 3 meetings? It just popped out of my house, out of my mouth automatically. Oh, that'd be cute. And then I go, no. And she'd bring it up every time. So we went to go look at a sofa that we were making, a custom sofa in the warehouse district, which is now where everybody lives.
North Loop or something?
In the North Loop,
yeah.
Yep, on 3rd Avenue. It was the hottest day in the whole summer, and no air conditioning, obviously, in a warehouse. So you walk up 3 flights of crickety stairs, and I'm waiting, and they walk in, and she's in beautiful tan, gorgeous jewelry, in this little white silk blouse and little white silk pants. And I said, well, Donna, why don't you sit down? Why don't you sit down and try out the sofa? And I was behind the sofa, and I looked down at her, and her silk pants had come unbuttoned, and they were around her ankles.
Did she know?
No. She was sitting there in little lace panties, looking incredible. And I said, Donna, and she looked down, she goes, oh my God, my pants. And she stood up and pulled her pants, and there were like 10 people working around us. She said, now, did everybody see that, or do you want me to do it again? And I thought, for the cute thing, I go, there is a God. We're even now.
Right.
You know, it's like unbelievable. And
So she had a sense of humor.
Oh,
What was it about her that intimidated you? Because she was so knowledgeable. She knew all these people, and her experience,
Yeah.
like Andy Warhol and all these things, were
Yeah.
just like so big.
to give you an example, she came into my shop one day, and she had on a kind of a 3-dimensional French chair in gold. And I said, God, that is such a cool piece of jewelry. I mean, you know, I'm in love with French furniture at that time. And I said, where did you get that? She goes, well, it's Karl Lagerfeld. I said, I didn't even know Karl Lagerfeld made jewelry. She said, oh, he doesn't. This was a sample, and I met him at a party last week, and he gave it to me because I liked it. And I'm just like, okay.
There are levels.
That's cute.
There are levels, and then there are levels.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But she's just incredibly nice and warm, and have an incredible place in the vintage. And you walk in the front, and I didn't do it, but they have like 20 pieces of Chihuly spheres that are underwater.
I don't even know what that is.
Well, do you know what Chihuly is? Dale Chihuly, the glass artist.
No.
He's the most famous glass blower in the world.
Okay.
But now he has like 80 people working for him. So Dale Chihuly probably doesn't touch anything. But they had 200 pieces underwater in their dining room of water that went like maybe 2 feet wide and went out a curved glass window that they had to make in China because nobody in the U.S. could make it. And the water goes out to a Chihuly fountain, and it all lights up at night.
Wow.
And the dining room, oh my God. The whole house. I walked into the guest house, and there is a huge cutout chair of Minnie and Mickey Mouse. And I look at the back, they're signed by Walt Disney. Steven Spielberg did their home theater.
Oh my word.
It looked like a spaceship. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. And then you walk around the corner, and she was the kind of person, like there would be a fake melted fudgicle on the rug. she'd do that, and everybody go, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do?"
What in your career, and maybe it's hard, you don't have to pick one, but like, what stands out as some of the most outlandish projects you've either been a part of or some of the most outlandish things you've designed?
Well, I did a house on Lake Minnetonka that was 46,000 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
At the time, that would have been the biggest in the state.
Yep.
Wow. And other than just the sheer size of it, I have to imagine the complexity and the taste. What made that one?
Well, the best thing, I think, was the relationship with the client, because I was a spokesperson for his company. And he really did a lot to promote me. And the house, I found the architect was another client in Palm Desert that used this architect, and they flew her in. But the house is, I mean, there's a bowling alley with 4 cameras, 2 lanes and 4 cameras, and a camera on the bowler. They have a mirror ball that goes off if you make a strike. The screen at the end of the lane, the bowling lane, has the score and a picture of the pins and a picture of you playing. And then there's a car simulator room where I did the whole floor in black and white marble checkerboard and red flannel on the walls.
Oh, wow.
And this big simulator like you're driving a sports car. And then there was a wine cellar and a wine cellar dining room. And they took a picture that I had taken in Italy probably 20 years before that of a double barrel vault done in brick. And that they had that in this room. It was all stone and brick. And 3 dining tables that pushed together that you could separate and seat 30, or you could seat 24 when they're all together. And a golf simulator.
Back then, it wasn't that common.
No.
And so, what do you think? For the audience, and even for me, I'm very curious. Was the most or the thing that was the most for you, the fulfillment? Was it the fact that you had the freedom to create whatever your mind could go?
That is, yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, I enjoyed making a really good living. But it was really about the opportunity they got. And basically, design is creating something from nothing. And that design, the way I kind of describe it, is experiencing the joy from creating something from nothing. So that to be able to do whatever you want to do without a concern of budget is amazing. And the opportunities, especially of doing custom things, which I love to do.
What is it? We had to pause for someone who came to the front door.
Ding dong.
And Billy said, "You're so calm." I was like, no one has ever accused me of being calm. So I think that was sort of funny.
Yeah. And then he said, it's because I ran 9 miles this morning. And I was like, I don't even want to drive 9 miles.
Got to take the edge off. So I had a question for you about this home that we're in. The reason why this for me personally has been so rewarding is it's uncovered something in me that I didn't know, storytelling. Mm-hmm. And we won't focus on Misu's right now. I guess my question for you regarding this creativity, what was your process? Was it the client that allowed you to be free? Where did you go for inspiration in your mind?
Do you know that I bet in, however, 45 years of business, I can't remember anybody telling me what they wanted it to look like. Or even, I would say, what color do you hate? Not what's your favorite, because then you're tied into doing the whole house in blue. Do you know what I mean? But
that's a great question.
Yeah. How do you want it to feel like?
See, that's
my best talent was enrolling them in what the house is going to feel like. And I would say, well, okay, what's the personality of this room? And what's, like a house should have rooms should have different temperatures. Like you have a room that's cool and relaxing, then you have a room that's warm and nurturing. Do you know what I mean? So you're designing towards feelings, not towards materials or objects.
I love that. I like that a lot. If If you're looking to level up your business in 2026 and beyond, the Contractor Coalition Summit is the place for you. If you've been a listener to the show, you know that this has been the single biggest factor in how I've leveled up over the last couple of years. It's had a huge, profound impact on my business, my personal life. It's what helped me launch the Curious Builder, in fact. Our second event of the year is a little change. September 15th in Minneapolis, we are doing a one-day event. So for the last 4 years, we've always done 3-day events, sometimes 4-day events. And we wanted to recognize that it's a significant investment in yourself, which is definitely worth every penny. I've talked many, many times about that. But for some people, it's just out of reach. So we wanted to do a 1-day crash course event. Obviously, we can't cover all that we can cover in a 4-day event, but this will be a major, major upgrade to whatever you are doing if you haven't been to one. So that'll be September 15th in Minneapolis. And then our last one of the season will be another 3-4-day event in Charlotte, North Carolina. All the details can be found at contractorcoalitionsummit.com. Oddly enough, we're sitting in the room right now. So we're in the sunroom at Misahu's, although it was stylized differently than that. When I met with Molly Windmiller, who helped me create Misa, she's a brand specialist. Maya Angelou has this great quote that people forget what you say, but they never forget how you make them feel.
Exactly.
And for decades, people have come into our homes and said, Mark, I don't know what is it about your homes, but we like the way they feel. In the beginning, I used to not like that compliment because I didn't know what it meant. And as I got more mature and was able to...
It's the biggest compliment.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially because, designers see the designers. Architects see the architecture and the shape and the form. But we're all building it. And while we like our peers to love what we do and they understand it in a way that maybe others can't.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, aren't we trying to create a home where someone feels comfortable and wants to spend? And so I closed my eyes and I told Molly when I was creating Misahu's, I said, she's like, what do you want? I said, I want to sit in a sunroom on a cold January day. It's dawn. I said, I've got the paper. I've got a wool blanket on my feet. I've got a cup of coffee and I feel cozy. That's what I want to feel. And so that run-on sentence, she said, we're going to build the entire brand of Misa, which is cozy in Swedish, around that statement.
Yeah.
And it's just funny that you brought that up and we're literally sitting in the room. That was in my mind.
And you know what? I have almost every client, but one client in particular, I bet I've done 15 projects for him. And I mean big projects. Out of two or three out of state that I've done a couple of times. And the room they gravitate towards, here they're big. One is a 10-bedroom house because they have a huge family. And it's on 75 acres in San Juan. It's for sale, by the way, right now because they want to spend more time in town now that their grandchildren are grown. But I've been out there a number of times, and the feeling and the personality of the place, it's 400 feet above the water on 75 acres on San Juan Island. And it is just absolutely amazing. But in every house, they gravitate, it's actually called on the architectural plans, the cozy room. And the cozy room, everybody always thinks, now how many people can I seat in this room? It's like, you don't want to have every room seat the same number of people. Otherwise, if you have a small, cozy space, you seat 6 or 8. That's all the people you want to be really cozy with.
I found in my career, which is shorter than yours, I'm at 22 years now, I have found that people regularly gather in the smallest, well-lit room in the house.
Yep.
And like this room is actually a little bit bigger than it was intended to be. To me, and I have a sunroom in my 1919 house. I spend virtually 80% of the time, maybe 90% of the time in my house is in that room. Because that's where I read in the morning. That's where I read when I come home from work, at night, whenever. I'm always sitting in my little Eames chair. Once I discovered what an Eames chair is, I don't know if I could ever sit in anything else. In fact, this home that we're in now, I was like, could we get a plaid version so it is more on cue with what we've gotten?
Is it the Barcelona chair?
No, it's just the classic Eames chair, the all leather black one with the walnut bottom.
Oh, okay. Is
that what it is?
That's a Barcelona chair.
Oh, that chair.
My dad had one, and my dad was 6'4" and wore bifocals. He went ass over tea kettle, as he put it, over the ottoman probably 5 times before he passed away. I mean, he'd just be la 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 and boom, ba boom.
All over.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, the ottoman's like 18 inches off the floor.
Yeah.
You know, you can't see it with
Can't see it.
bifocals.
So funny. Anyway, just these little things that, even as we design a cabinet, it's like you don't, like a big sunroom or a big screen porch, I actually like the small rooms. They just feel
exactly.
so much more approachable. It's right-sized.
And I've done a lot of big rooms. Like I just finished a project and there are 3 rugs in there that are 22 by about 30. And one has 8,500,000 hand-tied knots in it.
Oh, my word.
And it took a year to make the rug. 12 people. I can show you a picture of another one where it's an aerial shot and the rug is being scrubbed, and because after they weave it, there's all sorts of loose fibers, so they take it outside and scrub it. And if you were expecting the rug to ship on Tuesday, if it rains on Monday, you don't get the rug. And they sit folded up and they put in the belly of a 747 transport plane. We FedEx them to get them here. Otherwise, they're literally on a slow boat from China.
Right. Wow. I was going to ask you I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it in your words. Looking back at your career now to where you started, what would you have told yourself? What advice would you have given yourself when you were, because you started in your young 20s?
I started working for my Uncle Bob when I was 19.
19.
Yeah.
What would you tell yourself now?
God, it's so hard to look back, but there's not much I would change. I would say work hard and trust your guts. Be nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the foundation, is be nice. I mean, I've had people work before me or clients be nasty to my employees. Like I walked by one of my entry-level employees and she'd just gotten an email from one of my clients, and they had a very, very expensive Tom Holland piece of handmade furniture in their apartment on Park Avenue and 72nd Street. And they didn't have the air conditioning on all summer. And they didn't go there in the summer. So this cabinet that was tens of thousands of dollars had curved doors. They were all warped. So we go in and fix it. And didn't ask anything. And the guy from Tom Holland said that apartment was 110 degrees when I was in there. But I just fixed it because I didn't want to argue. And I had done his offices. I had done a huge house in Rolling Green for him, and a big giant ranch in Jackson Hole right on the Snake River with Grand Teton Mountain framed in the windows.
Wow.
And every elk that went south in the winter had to go buy their property. 30,000. I watched it once. And he gave me his jet. And I brought 7 friends there for a weekend, and he hired a cook for us that made all our meals. They had 6 snowmobiles, they had 6 horses, they had 6 of everything.
That's a lot better than that eggplant casserole.
Yeah, the old Depression dish. But I remember getting up in the morning and looking out the window, and the kitchen was a half a flight up. And I looked out the window, I go, well, shit, that looks just like a moose, except it's way too big. It had a 9-foot rack on it, and it was looking at me right in the window.
No way.
And I screamed for everybody. And the minute I screamed, he ran away. But I was just like, have you seen a real moose alive? It's just like, it wouldn't fit in this room. I mean, they're just huge.
I've seen them from a distance, not that close.
But that client's wife said to one of my assistants, and the wife was not easy at all. But I went along with it because I really loved the husband. And he, like, flying home from Jackson Hole in their jet, we're drinking scotch across the aisle from each other, and he told me that he's going to give me the name of a friend of his, and what I really need to do is build my portfolio to 3 to 5 million, then I can start building wealth. And I was thinking to myself, if I had $5 million right now, I wouldn't be sitting on this airplane. I would be on some island sipping a coconut drink or something. But she said to my assistant, lower tier assistant, said, another sign of your incompetence. And this is right after the deal. And you know what I did? I called her up and I said, who do you think you are? I sounded like my mother, but I was like, we don't treat people like that here. And I mean, she had I'd been there 5 times for one thing, and they never went ahead with anything. So it wasn't like they were easy.
Right.
And I just said, we're done. And this woman,
How did they react?
well, luckily they moved out of the country afterwards. He was hired to manage a city being built in Russia.
Oh, my.
Including all the freeways and all the retail and hotels and housing.
You've dealt with some amazing clients, like all of us. You have some that are not so amazing. I had a situation, actually, I guess that's too specific. I kind of have this joke, but it's also kind of a rule that I don't pick fights with billionaires because they've got a lot more money.
Yeah.
And even when you're right, your contract really is only as good as the person sitting across with their word.
Yeah.
And so you just want to work with good people. How have you navigated some of those difficult conversations? You certainly have had some, I would imagine, in your career, because you've dealt with, a fair amount of billionaires, I would imagine, in your career.
You know what it is? It's just blatantly being totally honest. I looked at someone that everyone in this state knows it's a billionaire, and I said, this is not your boardroom. This is my conference room. And he said, well, I guess you're right. I understand that.
That's a good response.
And when it boils down to, just because you're infinitely wealthy doesn't mean to me that you're any different than, like you said, the parking lot guy.
Yeah.
I mean, business is 99% kindness and common sense. And there are so many people that are so intelligent, but they have absolutely no, you can go A, B, C, and they go, A, what was it? It's just, and I suppose it comes with having successes and being more confident and realizing that if you lose one client, that doesn't mean you're going to go out of business. And in my heyday, I had 28 employees.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
My overhead was $400,000 a month, including salaries.
What?
We had to sell $1 million a month to break even.
Holy smokes.
But in those days, I was doing 6 or 7 million on my own. That is a lot of sofas. Can you imagine?
No, I can't, actually. That is a lot of sofas.
Yeah. But I mean, I would do things like my Uncle Bob introduced me to Charles Gracie, a company in New York, and like a project that I just finished on the lake. The dining room is really important to this client because they have a big family. So the rug the rug I had sold him 10 years before, and he said, I don't care how much it is, we like to change things. I won't keep it forever. Well, they moved it 3 times. And it's because I sold them the rug, and I think it was, say, $125 for the rug. And the next month I got Arts and Antiques magazine, and they had the sister rug for sale that was smaller and in fair condition, and mine was much bigger and in perfect condition, and it was the smaller one was $270,000 for sale. And now it's in the Albert and Victoria Museum because they bought it.
Yeah. That's cool.
So in that dining room, I did 2 of the most beautiful rock crystal Denison Lean chandeliers, custom size. And they are just kick-ass. And the architect and I worked with the 2 senior partners at HGA, John and Joan. They're married, and they pretty much run HGA. And they were so generous and so kind. I mean, we'd go to these meetings during COVID with 20 of us, and they'd go all around the table. And they'd say, what do you think? Well, what's your input? And then they'd ask the client, and the client would say, we don't do that. Billy does that. He'll tell you. We don't need to go into that. And they were just like, but we developed a tracery pattern that I used in the powder room that has a black granite floor and the tracery pattern is in the floor in bronze, like your detail in your wood floor in the entry here.
Yeah.
And it's also in the ceiling in the dining room, and it's also the banister of the staircase. And the ceiling is all done in silver leaf with a white glaze over it that's rubbed off. And the walls are 22 panels of hand-painted Chinese cherry blossoms, like the cherry blossoms in D.C.
Yeah.
And they do the detail on the cherry blossom flowers with a sable brush that has 3 hairs in it.
What?
Yeah. So it's these, and it's all, if you look at a corner and the tree goes on both sides of the corner. It's just so amazing.
Wow.
You know, and it's...
So I've got to, as we kind of wind down, because you and I could talk for days.
I've got two whole pages.
Well, we're gonna do. We'll break this up. Maybe in another episode. I'll end this one. We can record again because these are so good. I have a question for you about wealth in Minnesota that I wasn't planning on asking, but I think you are really a good person to ask this to. You know, I interview builders around the country, and let's call it Park City, Utah, or on the East Coast, or Florida, or some of these hot markets where people vacation.
Palm Desert.
Yeah, and you can build a house for 20, 25 million, and by the time you're done, it's worth 30. And people sell it. I interviewed this beautiful builder out in Salt Lake City, and he has a client. He's built them 2 homes, and he's never lived in one. Because when they finished it, they sold it for he goes, do you want to just sell the home? And so they sold it, and he goes, they had such a good time. He goes, we'll buy a nicer lot, reinvest it, and do it again. And I'm like, that's wild. That would never happen here in Minnesota, in my experience. I haven't seen that. Maybe you have. So I'm kind of curious.
I think it's just more covert.
That was my question. I think
people just don't talk about it as much.
That was my question. So I think there's money in Minnesota, but it's very quiet money. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And so why, and I guess this goes back to the home we're sitting in right now. The designers and architects and everyone in general love the home, but obviously we're taking a financial, it's not risk, because we'll do something great with it, but it's just not every day that a builder decides to do something at this level on spec. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. Why haven't we done that? Or is it just we haven't done that in the last 20 years, and 30, 40 years ago this was more common? What would why there is money here? I know we don't have vacation money, so meaning people aren't coming to Minnesota to vacation. Yeah. But there's plenty of wealth here. I think we're second in the country with Fortune 500 companies. We have a lot.
I know.
But people have usually second homes in other locations.
Yes. Or third.
So why doesn't it? Why isn't there either a higher appreciation for the high-end homes here, or is it just because I don't know those individuals?
Scandinavian.
Yeah.
Totally Scandinavian.
Yeah. Just more reserved.
Yep. Like when I was a kid, my mother would say, "Don't tell him that; he'll get a big head." Mm-hmm. Well, by the time I graduated from high school, my head was as big as a ping pong ball. It was like, Mom.
Maybe a little confidence would have been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't.
So it's cultural.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's changing. You look at Lake Minnetonka, and there are houses that personally I think are almost obscene. They're too big. Can you, like the house I did that was 46,000 feet, what do you do if you leave your phone in your bedroom and it takes you 10 minutes to walk to the bedroom? You're late. Mm-hmm. No matter how much money you have, you can't make your phone come to the garage.
The late Bob.
Yeah, the late Bob Lennox.
So, okay, that's so it's a very well-known home. So there's the Lothenbach's home, right? It's not too far from here. I think they built it for like 80 or 90 million. Yeah. And he died a month before it's finished.
I know.
And it's now being listed for 50 million. Mm-hmm. And the home is exquisite. I haven't been in it personally, but I mean, it's top. I mean, it's beautiful.
Well, it better be.
Yeah. That sounds like my dad. Now, I understand there's only a certain amount of people that could afford a $50 million home. What will happen to that home? I mean, in your opinion?
I think if somebody that kind of house, somebody that moved here from Darien, Connecticut, or from Manhattan to work for General Mills or some big company will buy it. Either that or some athlete.
Yeah. So it'll eventually sell.
I think so. But look at the Pillsbury Mansion. Mm-hmm. They tore it down because nobody could buy it.
Right.
And then they put up another house that nobody could afford. Yeah, it's, to me, okay, I was riding my bike the other day, and I go by, did you ever go to Pizzeria Lola or Pizza
yeah.
Lola?
Yeah, I drive by it all the
Right
time.
next door, there's a new restaurant, and they did a really nice build-out on it. And I rode my bike up to the door, and I looked at the menu. A pork chop is $40. $40. Shit, my first car was $40. Do you want a car or a pork chop? You know,
Right.
it's like,
But it depends how hungry you are.
it's like the money thing is out of control. No matter where you are. I can end, if you want me to end with this story. I was with my clients at a country club, and they had just built on a golf course a $20 million house and spent $3 million with me. And I said, what is that way up there? And the client said, well, that's a house that's for sale, and I've been trying to get my husband to go look at it, and we finally did, and wouldn't you know, he liked it, and the next day we called, and it was sold. And I go, well, how much was that house? And she said, $50 million. And I went, huh? $50 million. And I was like, well, I guess the wall covering in the guest room doesn't matter that it's $200 a roll. Oh, it's like, but $50 million, I mean, that's just there is no end. That's the thing. I mean, especially, we have our first trillionaire.
Right.
And that has always bothered me, the disparity or the space between those who have more than they need and those that don't have enough. And I have justified that by always having at least one volunteer nonprofit job at the same time, because that's the only way I feel like I can actually give back. And you were so generous. If it wasn't for you, the last deal I did, we wouldn't have sold anything in the auction.
You know what's funny is I think I have, so that was a prevention for teen suicide, and Mom and I went. It was a little over a year ago, and it was I actually still need to use up, so I bid on the food truck. With like the beer, and I still have the credit. I haven't used it up yet. We were going to do it here at Misahus, but the parking, they wouldn't let us park it in the street and do all that. So
really?
We're going to do it probably up in Orno. We'll do like a subcontractor appreciation day, and I'll just have all my guys, and it's like a barbecue and beer truck kind of thing.
And you're doing that. You're spreading love. You're spreading joy, and you're helping those who need to be helped. During the beginning of the AIDS crisis, my Uncle Bob died. He was one of the first people to die of AIDS in Minneapolis. And 3 months later, my best friend died. And 3 months later, another friend. And 2 years later, every road rep, any fabric rep, any furniture rep that would come to town, they'd stay at the Normandy and show their fabric line and serve lunch, and they're all dead. They all died. And so at that time, I said, I was no prude, but I had been saved and spared. And it was an obvious and blatant thing that was put in front of my eyes that said, you got to take care of these people. And within 3 years, I raised $6 million.
Wow.
One for a place called Ford House, and Park House was the other. And it was all, I had to present to the Abbott Hospital Board of Directors, 22 people. And we got the house for $1 from the Archdiocese. And it was the Clifford house. They got it for a wedding gift on Park Avenue. Big, huge mansion. They never ever used even the second or third floor of the place. And luckily, it's closed now because there's no need for it.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I think the one thing that is really cool is when wealth and money is used for good like that in a way that either private enterprise isn't going to do or can't do.
Yeah.
It's
especially now more than ever. It's up to everybody.
Yeah.
Because everything's getting cut.
Yeah.
All the funding for a lot of essential services are being cut.
Right.
And so we got to step up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, when I drive down 35W and I see downtown, or if I come in from the north and see downtown, I look at the Wells Fargo building and I remind myself that I did the top 2 floors of that building. And they have barely changed anything, and I did it when the building was being built. All antique rugs and Dongia furniture. And paneling, I mean, it was...
It's funny, you'll appreciate this. I sent an email to my lawyer to ask him if I could say this, and I haven't gotten a response back, but I think I can, and we'll do a separate podcast about this, I think.
You can just say allegedly.
Allegedly. But no, here's my thought. And this house changed my mind. I want to say that I want to build homes for 100 years, 200 years. The intention, and whether I do or not, I'll be dead, it won't matter. That's not the point. The point is and it's not a sales gimmick, although it does sound good to say, like, I want to put the metric out there, like, why shouldn't we think about quality and think about the materiality and the design and what we're doing in a way that this home could survive? Now, stylistically, things might change, but if you stay classic and if you really dial in your building systems, I mean, water is the number one issue. Mm-hmm. I live in a 100-year-old house now.
Yeah, I lived in a house that was built in 1801.
It can be done.
Yeah.
But we need to sort of like state it and put the goal out there. And so anyway, this home has done so many different things for me mentally about things that I want to do in my career. And part of it is we had an interview with Plaid Architects, and before this one will air, and he had just talked about in architecture, like never evers, things that he wouldn't do. And one of them, and he didn't say this, but it dawned on me the other night when I was having this conversation. It's like, you have 2 eyes and 2 eyebrows. It would be pretty weird if you had 4 eyebrows. Like, you don't need them. Like, what? And so the reason I say eyebrows is like, my dad calls it the generation of roof houses and gable houses.
Yeah.
There's gables on gables on gables. They serve no point.
I know a house down the street has a gable that should be 20 feet high, and it's 10 feet high. Mm-hmm. It's like, can't anybody look at a drawing and go, the proportion is off?
Or opposite. It should be 10 feet high, and it's 20 feet high.
Yeah. Well, at this house, anybody can walk in this house, and any yo-yo can see that it's impeccably made. And the materials are clean, authentic, real, timeless, ageless. You talked about plaster walls. I've been doing plaster walls like this for years.
Well, they've done them for hundreds of thousands of years overseas.
People don't get it.
I like the way it makes you feel. I want to respect your time in the audience. We'll do another episode. We'll take a break here, and we'll just record again. This is too good. We still have 4 more sheets to go through of stories.
And maybe they could check out my new website.
Yeah, tell me about it.
The artemaxgallery.com. ARTEMAX. My friend Derek Bertelson and I have been taking pictures for 10 years. And we re-engineer the photographs, and the reason we're doing it is to make people smile. I look around right now, and it's like, what can I do? When we're spending $1 billion a day on a war, what can I do to help? I can if I make somebody smile for 5 minutes, or somebody chuckles. When was the last time you giggled?
Oh, pretty much every day. I got kids.
Me too.
I mean, honestly, life would be pretty, My joke with the podcast is I want to educate, entertain, and if anything else that happens after that, I'm happy with. But like, if you are, think about your favorite teachers in high school or whatever school, or teachers in life. They're people that somehow connected with you.
Oh, God,
but you likely laughed.
Miss Manning in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
She kissed me. We had to move in the middle of the school year, and I had my desk.
Your teacher kissed you?
I had my desk resting on my head as I was cleaning out my desk, crying.
Oh, no.
Because it was the middle of the school year. And I had a bag in front of my face so nobody would see me. And I looked behind her, and she had followed me to the bus and kissed me on the cheek. I thought I was going to die.
Just because you were so sad?
No, I was...
No, why did she kiss you?
Because I was adorable.
Oh, I see. That's amazing. All right. Thanks for tuning into the Curious Builder podcast.
Thanks for having me. You're so nice to have me, and this is so much fun. And this house, if you guys haven't seen this house, get out here.
No problem. We'll put everything in the show notes, and we'll be back next week with more stories. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor. Share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.